In today's episode, we're going to look at a Panasonic AG-DV2500. This is a professional DV recorder that will handle both the mini DV as well as the full-size DV cam tapes. So, because there was two different sizes, one for consumer and small camcorders, and a full-size one for the professional use, which had a much longer recording time. Anyway, this one's got some issues. Let's check it out. Today I'm going to jump into a deck that I've never worked on before. This is an AG-DV2500. It's a mini DV, plus it'll do full-size DV tapes as well. It'll play back DV cam as well as your consumer DV. So the tapes came in two sizes. The mini tapes, of course, fit in the middle here, and if you've got the full-size longer tapes, these little flaps actually go down on the side for the bigger tapes. Before I power this thing up, I'm going to pop it apart. I have no idea what this one's doing. Now, this being a professional deck, you're going to see a lot of metal in here that you don't normally see in consumer machines. This was a very expensive piece of equipment when it was new, and it was probably $3,000 or $4,000. So this was sold through the professional arm of Panasonic. These were used by a lot of production companies. Use these that were using DV cam as a format, and even professional DV. Still, DV cam is still based on the DV25 spec, though. So the spec is the same as consumer. It's just that there was two sizes of tapes available that would allow for longer recording time. Because DV cam, the tapes ran at a faster speed, like a 60-minute mini DV tape that would go for 60 minutes on a consumer camera would only go for, I think it was 42 minutes, something like that, on a DV cam recorder, because the tape did run faster. The tracks were wider, spaced out more, which of course which helped with the error correction. So for longer recording times, there was a longer tape, a bigger physical tape, kind of like with the Beta. There was the Beta, the standard SP Beta, which used a standard cassette, and then there was a larger tape, which would go for, I think, 2 hours on a tape, something like that. So first, let's just put a tape in that's got a known recording on it, and we'll see whether this thing does anything. I think we just found the problem. It's eating. Okay, it's eating the tape. Look at it on the right side. What I'm curious as to, is it going to play anything? So I'll press play, and it's got a picture. This is some shots that I made. But as you can see, this tiny tape sure looks small in this big transport. We'll just rewind this one. And remove it when it's rewound. Now watch what happens when it's ejected. So you notice that the tape hubs actually move out. So when you put in a mini tape, the tape hubs actually have to move in for the spacing, because you see here, if you look down where the tape hubs are way out here for the larger tape size. So it actually has to bring the tape hubs in as well as thread the tape. And that's why it has to go in so far, because as the tape moves in, if you watch the tape hubs will actually have to move over. Now the tape hubs go into position, then it drops down. So now the tape hubs, which were mounted on arms, have swung up like this. Kind of neat. I don't know if you noticed that the way it threads, but there goes the tape down into position. Now watch. and it's going to wind the tape back in. And once I go into play, or any other movement, the tape gets pulled back in.
Well, there's our problem. The take-up spool is not turning fast enough. Look at all that tape spilling in there. It's going to eat that tape if I'm not careful here.
Or maybe that's a problem with it. Maybe that's the fault. That may be the fault. Watch the tape when it threads. On this side over here. Look, the tape's gone slack. We'll go to fast forward, will it move? Yeah. Going to fast forward, it moves. Going to play and it moves. Just initially when it loaded, it didn't take up the tape.
I'm thinking at this point there's something that's jammed, and I believe this has a direct drive motor for the tape hubs.
See? It's spilled some tape. To go into play, is it going to take up the tape? No, it's like it's eating the tape. Go into now it's got into a caution. There's our fault. Now it's slowly taking the tape up, you see? Oh, we're going to get an eaten tape. Ah, okay. There's our fault. This one's eating tapes. I guess the first thing to do is to try and trick this thing into loading to see why the take-up hub is sticking. Okay. Now, if I push play, and now it's turning. And now it thinks it's a defective tape. Okay, now at least I know what I have to do. I have to block the end sensors. Over here, there's tape end sensors that detect whether the tape is at the end or not. I have to block the end sensors, which are right in line with where the cassette would be. So there's a sensor down here. There's another one over here. So I'm going to stick some black tape over the optical sensors. Now when you're doing this to work on a VCR, don't forget to remove it when you're done. Otherwise the tape won't stop when it gets to the end and you'll break a tape. But in here there's a couple of little sensors. One there and one over here. We're going to block those little sensors off. I think I got them both. And we'll try to get this thing to load again. So I release the two catches. Oops. Got to hold it all the way. And then it'll drop down. Make sure that this turns. And it's sensing a defective tape again. Okay, now when I press play, the reels should turn, and I'll have to turn this one by hand, otherwise it'll detect that the tape is damaged or broken and it won't work. If I press play, it's sticking. It's sticking. So why is it sticking? Is there something in the gear, in the teeth? That's what I'm thinking. Maybe there's some debris in the teeth on this hub, and that might, or it could be a cracked hub. But let's examine these teeth. But this one's definitely sticking. I want to get into the bottom of this unit and take a look and see if we can actually see the mechanism. I think I can see it from here, but I gotta get the board out of the way. I don't know how easy this board is to move, whether it lifts out or whether it swings out, or whether the deck itself lifts out. But I'm disassembling everything that okay, the front cover should just lift off here. So pull these catches out of the way. The front cover should lift off like that. May be attached by a wire, probably is. And it's not. Good, excellent, okay. I'd like to see the bottom of this chassis, if possible. The bottom might come off. The circuit board might come out of the back of it if I remove the back panel here. The board might lift out. So I'll remove these arrow mark screws on the back. I love this warning, shock hazard. It runs on 12 volts. I don't know that there's going to be much of a shock hazard from 12 volts DC. Now let's remove these screws on the bottom and see whether the board will lift out of the way so that I can actually see the mechanism. See if there's any switches or any clutches that could be acting up. Okay, so now the board will lift sort of out of the way. Okay, just disconnect it from the monitor. Don't need that on right now. And, aha! The board actually has enough slack that the board can tip down like this to be worked on. That's good. There's another cover plate here I'll remove. So that's one of the big differences between broadcast electronics and consumer electronics is that the broadcast stuff was designed to be serviced. It looks like it's got a separate motor here for the reels. I wonder, I'm just curious as to whether that motor may be gummed up a bit, and that's what I want to take a look at. I'll undo this connector here. Remove that. That way I can swing the board down a bit more to get access without worrying about damaging any of these ribbon connectors. So here's the unit on its side. There's a connector here that should open up to release. This is a drive motor. So let's just remove this one. This is what drives the take-up and supply spools. What I'm curious is this motor sticking? Obviously it can do low and high torque to drive the spools, and it appears that when it's in low torque it sticks. So it's possible that the motor itself might need to be lubricated, or there might be something with the gear here. So at least now I can see the different gears and see what's meshed up here. This is the real drive motor that I'm interested in. Possibly it's sticking. It doesn't feel like it's sticking from turning it, but it may be gummed up to the point where when it's in the, oh, what is this? Is that a crack? Is there a crack in that plastic flywheel there on the edge? That's actually the magnet that is read by the, or maybe not, just there's a hair in here. Might be debris too. It doesn't take much to stop these motors when they're in really low torque mode. And of course, something like this when it's in play would be in very low torque. I do want to lift the rotor off of this if I can. I think it'll lift off. Yep, it will. Just held in place by the magnet. Now this is a magnet here, so you gotta be really careful that you don't get anything near here that's magnetic, or it's going to be a problem. I'm gonna put a bit of oil onto the bearing here, and then we'll put this one back together and see whether I've made any difference with the operation. Okay, let's see if we can put this back together now. There's a little spring that sits, I believe, on this little post here, and then there's a gear that goes, oops. A little spring that sits on this post, and then it holds a gear in place. That goes on like that. And then this sits in place. There's a red gear that fits in here, and that spring holds that gear in place. Anybody want my old screwdriver? Still works, it's just a little bit short. Kinda like that new Sony screwdriver. It is perfect for this type of work. this back in place. Okay, let's try this thing out now. Tape goes in, tape goes down, tape threads. And it says stop on the screen, so play. Tape is playing, the tape is not being eaten. I have color bars. And the tape is now playing. Interesting. Oh, maybe we got it fixed. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something? You can see the tape reels are spinning. You can see them spinning down here. Let's try the different modes. Let's try fast forward. Oh, that's still, where's fast forward? I guess if I put the front panel back on, I'll know which buttons do which. That one's fast forward. Let me just snap the front panel back on. There we go. Now it's going into fast forward. As you can see, it's going really, really fast. Put the bottom cover on this thing while I'm at it, just so that nothing shorts out. Okay, now the bottom cover's on. Let's watch the operation. No eating the tape. Fast forward. There's nothing on the tape at this point either, it's blank. I'll rewind the tape back to the beginning. Now there is some damage to this tape because this machine chewed it up at the beginning, but it's okay because I've already copied this tape, so I didn't lose anything. I grabbed a tape that I had just recently dumped. No, it's just that storm that we had in 2001 when I was shooting news. That's what this tape is. So you guys have already seen the contents of this anyway, so this will now become my damaged tape for working on any DV decks that I might service. You can see the tension regulator arms moving back and forth there as this thing, as it rewinds. There we go, back at the beginning. Eject. So I think we got the problem. This one solved, and that was the the reel motor. I just had to take it apart and lubricate the bearing. This being direct drive, I checked to make sure there was no debris in any of the teeth on the gears, and there wasn't. So it left little else to be other than the fact that the motor itself, just the lubricant had started to get a bit dry after all these years. Like, this was brought to me from a local customer, but I get people that ship me stuff in the mail, and I just got a call this morning from FedEx that somebody had, even though I told them do not ship by FedEx, do not ship by FedEx, do not ship by UPS or DHL, only ship by post. And I got a notification this morning that there was an item that was being assessed for broker and customs charges, and that it would be arriving next week. And I promptly contacted FedEx and refused the item because I won't pay broker charges on something that's coming in for repair, especially since the fact that I don't know that it can be repaired. You know, I'll get something sent to me that's not repairable, and the person that owns it won't pay the duties and taxes, and then I'm stuck with paying. You know, it could be, well, the worst one I had was a guy that sent me a DAT machine, and he declared it being worth $1,000, and the duties and taxes were $160, which he ended up paying. But still, if it hadn't been repairable, I could have probably ended up eating those. So anybody that sends me anything, and I tell people this for a reason, do not ship it by anything other than USPS if it's coming from the States, because otherwise there will be taxes, and I will refuse it, and you'll be getting it back at your expense. Because I've been stuck a couple times with duties on items that people have sent me, including unsolicited items that have been sent. Something arrives, and something arrives at my door, and I don't even know what it is until I get it. That big blue anti-static mat, or that soldering mat that I've got, for, you've seen it on a few videos before, that I have no idea even where that came from. Somebody sent me that to do an evaluation on, and they sent it to me unsolicited, and I got a bill for $43. I think it was $43. $37.50 in broker and then taxes for something that I didn't request. Didn't even know who sent it to me. It just arrived. As you can see, no more eating the tape when it loads. Play. You can see the spools are spinning there. Let's check out the picture, and then this one is going to go back to its owner. And this actually came from a studio that uses this as an archiving machine. The same client that brought me the AVS 7000 and that SLVR5. I've now got a new client that I'm maintaining his equipment for, and it's a studio that does archiving like me. So it's my competition, but he's not close enough to me to be my competition. But I now have a few decks of his to work on. So there's a damage in the tape where it got crunched before. So yeah, I hope to see some more of these interesting decks to work on. Anyway, this one is done. Yeah, that's the damage. You can see it, creases in the tape, freezing up there momentarily, but everything's good. Everything's good. Unit's playing perfect. And go through all the modes here. Go to fast forward. Right, there's fast forward. And go to still. And go to reverse search. we'll do a recording on this thing too. I'll just go past where my recording is, and I will we'll go up to where the sound is on this too. There should be some sound coming up here. I think there's sound here. At some point I turned the sound on. But we'll make a quick recording on it. There we go. I'll go past the end of the recording, and then I will plug a source into it. We'll make a recording and test out the recording feature. There we go. That's beyond it. Let me just plug a source into this thing. We'll make a recording and play it back and make sure that the recording's working. So I'm just making a recording here. I'll just put some music on the soundtrack, and we're recording color bars right now because that's what we do. We record color bars. I have a color bar generator. It's courtesy of Sony. This is my color bar generator, by the way, for you guys that wonder what does a color bar generator look like. Well, it looks like that. It's a camera that I'm hanging on to the Vidicon on this, or the Satacon actually, but the Satacon tube is kind of foobarred, but it works really good as a full field color bar generator. So I'll record some color bars and we'll play it back, make sure that everything's playing okay. I don't anticipate any problems, and then we'll send this one on its way. Okay, you ready to play the tape back? Play. End of the last shot, and now we have color bars. Okay, that one's working. There we go. This one's done. Let's rewind the tape and send this one on its way. I tell you, it certainly looks strange with that dinky little tape in this big mechanism. Too bad this wasn't an AG-DV deck. If this was an AG-DV deck, that would be fantastic. But this one's an older one. I have an AG-DV deck, but mine's nothing like this. Mine's a video Walkman. It only uses the mini DV, but it's got the flip-up screen and everything. But it's a great deck. But of course, not as versatile as one that can take both sizes of tapes. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one real soon. Bye for now. It's over. Are you guys still here? What are you doing here still? It's over. The video's over. Turn it off. Goodbye. It's done. This one's fixed. What are you hanging around for watching me just play with this thing?